What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Boxing, aka MKO Pugilism, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok, all that good stuff. So let's get into this one. So this is just going to be a few thoughts about the Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Ben Piers Morgan interview, which was. It was a bit of it wasn't it wasn't a face-off, but it was one of these interviews. It went on for about an hour, and I'll just give you a few cliff notes, a few thoughts here. So from the trailer of this interview, it looked like it was going to be fireworks, that they were going to have to be kept apart all throughout the interview. There was just going to be rage and venom and all this sort of stuff. It looked quite explosive, but I found that when I actually watched it, it was, generally speaking, quite calm. I mean, Chris Eubank Jr., for the most part, kept calm. And Conor Ben, to his credit, he mainly, for most of this interview, the vast majority of it, he sort of kept a lid on it. And it mostly centered around Conor Ben failing the PED tests, because that's what Chris Eubank Jr. sort of zeroed in on, and he just wouldn't let that go. He just kept going on and on and on about it from the beginning to the end of the interview. That was always a subject. So he brought it up. Conor Ben said, "I'm cleared by people a lot smarter than you. I've been cleared 3 times, etc., etc." Chris Eubank said, "Yeah, but it was in your system." And he said, "Did you have these substances in your system?" Conor Ben was like, "Well, maybe I didn't, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, maybe." So, yeah, there was a bit of, that was sort of the main focus there. Piers Morgan sort of came to Conor Ben's defense and said, "Oh, you know what? Well, there's all these different sports. Many people get caught with PEDs in their system, and then some of them get cleared, some of them get found innocent. So, for all intents and purposes, you're fighting this guy who the sanctioning bodies and who, the border control and everyone is satisfied that this guy is cleared, he's allowed to box. So really, he's done everything he can. What more could he have done?" So Piers Morgan kind of took up for Conor Ben and said, "Look, regardless of what you say, what you think of him, this guy, he's ready to box, he's cleared to box, he's allowed to box by everybody, who matters. So, what is your problem? You can't really say nothing." And he even pushed Chris Eubank Jr. at one point in the interview and said, so if you feel so strongly about this, why are you even fighting the guy in the first place? If you feel that he's a cheat, blah, 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 then don't fight him. Why are you fighting him, man? So, Chris Eubank Jr. went on and said, they asked about the egg thing, and Conor Ben said, yeah, he slept good at night because of it. He was cool, he's fine, and he promised his mum he wouldn't do nothing stupid. And Chris Eubank said, yeah, because you cheat, that's why I embarrassed you. That's why I did it. I did it to embarrass you. And he said it with this kind of stoic look on his face throughout the whole thing. They went on to talk about their father's legacies. Conor Ben mentioned that his dad is going to be there. He's going to be in the corner. And that is sad that Chris Eubank Chris Eubank Sr. is not around. He's not in the promotion. He's not going to be in the corner. That's really sad. And he said he hopes that the Eubanks reconcile. And Chris Eubank Jr. said, "Oh, this is not the same energy you showed for me at another time," etc., etc. So Chris Eubank wasn't really, even when Conor Ben sort of seemed genuine and said positive things about him, about he wants to see the relationship repaired, he said, "This is not the type of language I want to hear from a fighter. This is soft," basically sort of discrediting what Conor Ben was saying. And then the action and the kind of the fire came, the controversial moment came when Piers Morgan brought up the fact that Nigel Benn, obviously, after Chris Eubank, egged Conor Ben, Nigel Benn, Conor's father, put his arms around Chris. He snuck over, and it was so slick the way he did it. You watch that video of when Chris Eubank Jr. eggs Conor Ben, you'll see Nigel Ben sort of sliding round the security, not rushing round, not looking like he's going to fight. He slid round him, got round him, got to Chris, and then he took action. Then he grabbed Chris Eubank by the throat, and he wanted to strangle him. He said, "Oh, I fought with glass. I fought with glass," and whatnot. So yeah, so they talked about that, and that was where the rage came out of Conor Ben. Piers Morgan said, "Oh, so you threatened Nigel, so how does that make you guys feel?" And he said, "No, I didn't threaten him. I promised that if he, as a man, if he puts his hands on me, then he's not going to get the hands back. It's not going to, basically there's going to be consequences. He will be dealt with." And to me, I understand that point, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, yes, you want to protect your son and stuff, and yeah, I respect that. But at the same time, because it's the son's business, it's the son's fight, you don't really need to put your hands on another man. If it's a one-on-one, someone's done something to your son, it's more your son's thing to get back at that guy. That's kind of the way I see it. But I understand that as his dad, he's seen his son get violated, get someone doing something disrespectful. You want to go after the guy. So I kind of see it from both sides. But Eubank was saying, no, as a man, there's going to be consequences. And that's where it exploded. That's where they stood up. Conor Ben said, yeah, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? He stood up and said, what if I slap you? And moved himself like that. And the security, Chris Eubank was quite calm. He didn't really, he wasn't really saying much. And Conor Ben was just sort of raging. And then Piers Morgan got them to sort of sit down. And then it kind of ended on a peaceful note, again speaking about the fathers. There was even a part where they showed that famous interview they done on ITV where Nigel said, I personally do hate him. I personally do hate him. And Chris Eubank said, no, I don't hate the man. I just want his WBO title. So they showed the famous interviews and stuff like that, trying to stir it up. But yeah, it ended on quite a peaceful note. Conor Ben he said he'll shake Chris Eubank Jr.'s hand. Chris Eubank Jr. said, no, I will not shake his hand until he admits that he's a drug cheat, and until he sorts that out, I'm not shaking his hand. And that's kind of the nutshell of sort of how it all went on. It was a decent interview. It's worth watching. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't nothing overly exciting. A lot of it was quite repetitious. But it's one of those things. It stokes the fire, gets you interested in the fight. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section. What do you think of the Conor Ben and Nigel, sorry, not Nigel, Chris Eubank Jr., Piers Morgan interview? Let me know what you thought about in the comment section. Until next time, it's MKO Boxing, over and out. Catch you on the next one.